Hello and welcome to the Abs Fitness Podcast. Just a healthy reminder here. This podcast is all about health and fitness, spiritually, mentally, and physically. So just make sure that you guys follow us at Abs Fitness Brandon Florida LLC on Facebook, as well as Abs Fitness Brandon Florida on Instagram. And stay tuned to this podcast for daily health or weekly health, fitness, and spiritual advice. I'd like to start this podcast off in respect of its tradition with a quote. So today's quote is going to be based off of Confucius, or is from Confucius. The quote goes, "The man who says he can and the one who says he can't are both right." Now, what the significance of this is it's going to play into today's theme. And today's theme is all about the power of perception. Perception is one of those things that exists within and is extremely dictatorial of how your life is going to turn out, or how your day-to-day is processed from a mental standpoint. Now, something about perception here is, oftentimes it's very tricky. So within the human conscious, there are so many bounds or so few boundaries. It's oftentimes found to be limitless, but also you can run into boundaries. So it's a little bit tricky. One of my favorite quotes, or one of my favorite sayings, is we are simultaneously no more significant than a grain of sand while also the center of the universe. Now, what this hints to is the fact that the human conscious is so capable of these extreme oppositional forces or extreme oppositional perceptions whenever it comes to minimizing or maximizing the potential of any given moment. Now, what the importance is of this perception is essentially regulation. So it's regulating you through the moment. Now, one thing that I've noticed whenever I'm personally living in the moment or not living in the moment is at a certain point, I might become obsessed with potential. Now, potential is only the expression of a possibility of something which is something that can only be assessed accurately in retrospect. So it's the expression of a possibility. Potential is not what is necessarily within the moment. So I found that my own pitfall here is within life, I oftentimes get obsessed with what my goals are. And instead of focusing on and understanding what the moment is and what I should be attempting to pull out of the moment, I'll focus on a goal that's way too far off in the future. And that robs me of the potential of the moment, because the potential of the moment and what I'm seeing in my head and what I want to bring about in the future are two completely different things. So if you don't want to miss out in the moment, a healthy practice I like to implement, which I've been implementing recently, and I've seen great benefit within my own training, particularly the martial arts, is first I focus on bringing the body to the forefront of my consciousness or my being. Then I focus on bringing the mind to the forefront of my being. And then I finally focus on bringing all three, the mind, body, and soul, to the forefront of my being. A mental practice I like to do is when I'm focusing on the body, I allow myself to feel the moment. I try and disconnect completely, and I understand what is in the present physical realm. When I bring forward the mind, I understand what my emotions are doing to my conscious state and how I'm processing the surroundings around me due to those emotions. When I bring forth the soul, that's essentially the glue. That's what I would imagine is the energy that flows between those two states and allows them to cohesively form one unit, which is me. Now, this has been extremely vital for my practice lately, and it's been allowing me to really appreciate the moment and who I am, as well as what the moment is, because that's where the pitfalls are. Sometimes your perception can be negatively impacting the moment. Sometimes your perception can be positively impacting the moment. And sometimes your perception can be negatively or positively impacting you. So there are quite a few variables here. But overall, what the main objective is for me personally is to exist genuinely within the moment and appreciate what the moment is, because there are two separations. It's me, it's the moment, and then it's what my perceptions do to both of those. So in the equation, I want to make sure that my perceptions are not hindering me, and I want to make sure that they're not hindering the moment. So it's a very tricky balance. But I want to give you guys a little bit of an anecdote here on how I've actually implemented this and what brought me to this sort of lesson in life. Now, I'll put this. I want to put it in a way that's not overly aggressive towards myself, but I have been obsessed with like goals, extremely goal oriented. I've been seclusionary. I've been isolated in the way that I pursue my own goals for the past year and a half. I've been very, very, very goal oriented. I haven't allowed for the moment to interfere with those goals. But in doing so, I allow the moment to pass by without capitalizing on the potential of the moment. So I think it's very important that you don't just get blinders 100% of the way. You need to be cognizant of what's happening around you. And what led me to understand this is the fact that when I took my foot off of the gas in order to stop and smell the roses around me, which happened recently when I decided to go out to, a few social gatherings, and I was kind of at a place in my life where I was in turmoil. I didn't understand why people went to social gatherings. Why are they doing these things? Like, everyone I watch on YouTube, like these motivational speakers, these people that are really influential, and I love to watch, I love to listen to because they give me great motivation. These guys are telling me avoid these scenarios, avoid these situations, stay focused on your goals, stay focused on your task, keep moving forward, don't stop, keep grinding, keep hustling. And I think that's awesome. That's a great way to pursue a goal. However, in the overall meaning of life, you know, these are fleeting moments. This time you don't get back. So you're investing your time in order to achieve something in the future that's supposed to be the worthwhile investment. It's supposed to be worth the sacrifice. But the question to me becomes at a certain point, with your current time, is it still possible to pursue that success and to pursue that goal while also allowing for the current moment to be, let's say, accepted and understood in its entirety? And that's what I'm really seeking to do, is to understand how to appreciate the moment as well as myself within that moment. So what I did is I went out to these social gatherings, and I realized that whether it be due to corona or whether it be due to the fact that I was isolating myself in order to achieve these goals and to minimize my distractions, I had developed a form of social anxiety. I didn't understand that. It was so foreign to me. I'd always been excited by public speaking. I thought it was fun. And I really enjoyed social interaction. But all of a sudden, when I became obsessed with these goals, I forgot how to interact with these people, and I realized that I was standing on the wall, avoiding everyone, and I was basically scanning for threats. I was like, where's the person with the knife? Where's the person that's gonna be sketchy tonight? And I realized that that was all a perception. That was all something that had been dictated by external sources that I had allowed to influence how I perceived the moment. And those external sources were most likely, my upbringing. I came from a military family, so everything was always like very safety oriented. Also with the modern social media and news situation, it's like everything is constantly sensationalism, and what should you be fearful of? So it's like these things, while you may think that you're impervious to them, like I did, you expose yourself to the situation in which they become more prevalent, or they become something you can hone in on and focus on, and it will wreck your perception. So I had to really step outside of myself, and I had to do that centering drill, just like how I do before my practices. I had to pull. my conscious away because it was just overwhelming me with like, oh, this could happen, that could happen, that could happen. Where are the exits? Is there one over there by the restaurant? Yep. The kitchen. I'll let you know a little secret here. Okay. This is for my social anxiety people out there. I always look for where the kitchen is because when people walk into a restaurant, a club, a bar, whatever it may be, they always see two exits. You've got the front and the back. But what no one ever thinks of is the kitchen. So just a little helpful tip there. But anyways, I'm getting off track here. So what happened was I had to pull that conscious back away from the situation. I had to allow first my body to perceive what was within my immediate vicinity. That's purely on an instinctual level. That's something I've developed over time because of like my sports background, because of fighting, because of just like daily life. It's something that you can rely on. It's like that gut instinct. When I think of where my body is, it's like my gut tells me whether or not I'm safe. You can sense that. And so I allow my body to come forth first. And when my body is secure and I feel as though there are no imminent threats, I allow the conscious to come forward and assess the situation as well. When my conscious comes forward to assess the situation, now it's under the precept that the surroundings are of adequate safety, and that's been dictated by my instinct essentially. So that's a gut feeling. And then once that conscious has been lulled into that state in which it's like, okay, I'm able to perceive what's around me in a neutral manner, neither positive or negative, but what is not what I perceive it to be. Then I allow that consciousness to start thinking, and then I bring the soul forth, and the soul is the energy which compels me to move forward and enjoy the moment because that is actually turned out to be really important for me. Oftentimes, I am an overthinker. So I'm stuck in my own head thinking about all the different possibilities. What do I say if they say this? What do they say if I say that? I don't know. So I'm always trying to measure and calculate and figure out what's the best path here. But at the end of the day, it comes down to understanding and accepting that the moment will come, the moment will pass, and whether or not you achieved the maximal potential for life within that moment, like living, accepting, smelling the roses, and finding what it is to live in that moment and not to live in the future or the past, but to be present. um it's extremely important, especially when you're doing something that you find to be very important. So it's really about, this story is about me finding balance between a goal that is in the future and what is presently available and what I'm presently capable of doing. So I figured out that how I balance that is first, I have to prioritize. So I have to prioritize what is important in my life. All right. Right now, I'm very focused on fighting Muay Thai specifically. So with that kickboxing, I have a fight coming up in May 7th, or I should hopefully, if all goes well, if there are no injuries to me or my opponent. And so I realize that, let's say that that is the core of what I'm seeking to manifest or achieve right now. So what I do is I set that aside. Okay. So I understand that right now my life is pretty much revolving around this goal. Now, what's the reason for that? Greater meaning, purpose, fulfillment, hope, understanding myself. Like I'm not fighting because, I want to be the center of attention and I want to be awesome, like I want everyone to cheer my name. No. Why I'm fighting is to develop myself and understand myself to a greater degree, so that way when I move through this world and hopefully I pass on my life from, me to the next of kin, I could have brought them one step further. And more than that, I could have brought the rest of the world one step further as well. And so when I fight in order, or I pursue this fighting and I pursue martial arts in order to develop myself internally to a degree in which I know I'll be able to, eventually affect the outcome of the world around me. Because I truly believe that once you have power, all it does is amplify who you are. So if you don't have power right now, or if you're in a position where you feel like eventually in the future you will have some form of power, whether that be money, a platform, whether it be just the power of influence over the people that you love in your life. I think it's integral, absolutely integral, that you focus on yourself, because that power is going to multiply out into those vicinities with the intent and with the purpose that you have set within yourself. And so um, that's the reason why I fight. So let's say that I'm fighting. This is the reason why I want to develop myself as a person. I want to have a positive impact on the world. And my perception is necessary to do that. So what do? I set up my day around that. So that doesn't mean that I sacrifice every other moment before that comes. What I do is I make sure that, okay, I have a plan. I'm gonna wake up in the morning. I'm gonna eat some protein. I'm gonna have a healthy breakfast. There will be some carbs, protein, healthy fats. I'm gonna get to work, and before I get to work, I'm gonna make sure that I'm in the right state of mind, because I cannot allow what's going to happen later in the day to ruin what's happening in the moment. All right. I've already set up that I've had a healthy breakfast. I'm going to have a good day at work. And then I'm going to come home. I'm going to take my little break. I'm going to take a nap, take care of the dog, get him through his training. And then eventually I'll do my mental preparation. I'll do my studying and my focus time in order to prepare me for the night. However, I cannot get consumed by the goal. So when I go to work, my focus is my clients. When I'm going there, I am there for them so that way they can see improvement in their life. Now, that's a golden opportunity, because while I'm working towards improving myself, I have the opportunity to use my current self in order to influence people in a positive manner, bring their life in towards a trajectory that's going to allow them to pursue their greater selves. And in turn, I will become greater myself, because I'm having that influence to bring them into a more positive headspace or health space. So it's integral that that opportunity not be wasted. And that's just another testament to why perception and the perception of the moment and who you are in that moment are so important. Because if I had been of the perception that Muay Thai is tonight, that's the only thing I'm focused on, this is just a little stepping stone, then I'm going to miss out on the opportunity to impact someone's life in a very helpful way, which is overall the end goal that's wrapped up within Muay Thai. So I can't miss out on that understanding. And so I've been attempting to influence the rest of my life in that same way, where we exist within the moment, we achieve the potential of the moment, or we pull out the potential of the moment by using your genuine self in that moment. And so essentially, by the time I get to Muay Thai, I have no hangups. That's all that means. I have no hangups. I'm there. I'm present in the moment. I'm ready to pursue what is, not what I want to be, not what others want to be. It's time for what is, and it's time for me to be me. That's really all it is. And so I found that through this recentering practice and through, experiencing these different parts of life and understanding who you are within these parts of life, that overall the impact has been tremendous on the success of my life. Those moments are important because you are succeeding or you are failing in those moments. So if you are focused outwardly or internally too much, those moments pass. But overall, I think that perception regulation is something that's very difficult to attain. Whenever it comes to my own perception, or anyone's perception, really, there are a lot of factors. You have your own emotions, which you have to take into place. You have your environment, which you have to take into account, and you have the emotions of those around you. You have whether or not you've developed positive or negative, like friendships. There are a lot of external factors. So I feel very blessed in the current state because I have cultivated a group of people around me that are extremely positive and are goal oriented in their own way. And so it's a bit of a cycle in which you can almost find yourself into a negative or a positive feedback loop. Very similar to social media and how they dictate, what you watch. That's something else that, as far as dealing with your own perception goes, you can also cultivate there too. So I think overall, the message of today is to cultivate your surroundings so that way your perception, or not only your surroundings, but also your internal dialogue and your internal factors. So that way the perception is not always negative, it's not always positive, but it's more so in that neutral state where you can healthily assess what is happening and then dictate whether or not you'll allow that perception to overpower, stay within the neutral, or, mitigate what is happening to you. I think the power of perception comes into play in negative spaces, in minimizing that negativity that is around you. Oftentimes I find myself talking to clients or talking just in general to people about negative experiences, trauma, especially childhood trauma. Maybe they're having a bad day at work, or maybe just the workout. They feel like, oh my gosh, I should be doing so much better. I feel like I can lift 400 pounds, but when I step up to the plate and I try, it's like I'm barely cracking 250. So, I understand that at a certain point, these perceptions of like what you want to be can be damaging, or like the perception of like everything around you being negative can be damaging. But like, you got to understand that you have that power within to mitigate and flip the script. Because guess what? While you may only be able to lift 250 today, guess what? That's more than a lot of people ever lift in their entire life. While you may be having a shitty day at work today, it's this shitty day that's going to make the other good days look so much better, so much more attractive. It's going to bring about, even if it's a negative situation, sometimes you have to understand how to appreciate those enough, or how to appreciate them for the fact that they're going to bring about the positive situations. You would never understand how to appreciate the positive if you weren't experiencing this negative right now. So I think that understanding that your mind has the capacity to influence the moment, and it has the capacity to influence who you are in that moment, um, to the utmost negative of the spectrum, and to the utmost positive of the spectrum, is extremely integral, and it puts on a lot of personal responsibility, because you realize that you are the one factor you have under your control. You're the one thing in the world that you can dictate how you're going to perceive the moment, what you're going to do in the moment, and how that moment is going to come out. So I think at the end of the day, whenever I'm talking about this perception, it's really about personal responsibility. Because once you take personal responsibility, you understand that you can change any negative into a positive and any positive into a negative. And how I've been doing this personally is when I'm sparring, when I'm looking for openings, and when I get hit, that hit isn't a negative. I'm getting hit, it's not a negative. It means that I know what they're targeting. So if I've got my hands up, they kick me in the ribs. Guess what? I know when I'm in a certain position, maybe I flick that elbow out so that way they see, oh, guess what? That's an opening on the ribs. I let them go for it, pivot, and then I move in for my own counterattack. So I think that it's integral that you recognize that negatives are opportunities, positives are opportunities, and neutrals have opportunities as well. It's just all in how you flip the coin. So as far as where that's going to play out in a day to day, I want to tell you a short story about one of my clients. And this was like one of my first clients, at Abs Fitness. His name was John, and John was inspirational, absolutely inspirational. This was my very first client with Justin and Abby. Wish they could be here helping me out. I feel like I'm just talking a lot, about one thing, but we're gonna branch out. We're gonna show you guys some stories, or share a story. It's story time. John was very inspirational for the fact that John was in a very negative headspace when he first started training with me. He was constantly downplaying his achievements. He, constantly talked about how unappealing he felt he was, how his self confidence was just in the dirt. And he didn't feel like he had a good support system around him. But what I was able to do, and what we were able to do together, was through working with John and convincing him that he should have confidence and that he should, pursue these moments in a positive manner because he's worth it. We were able to change his perception. And what happened with John is John went from not believing in himself, being 336 pounds and being depressed, to understanding that his life had more value, had more meaning, and that he could pull that value out as long as he believed in himself and worked towards it. So we got John on the Savage program. He started working towards those goals, and slowly but surely he started moving the needle. It was only 1 pound. It was only 2 pounds. It was only 3 pounds, until all of a sudden, at the end of 3 months, John had lost 70 pounds. 70 pounds. And it was all in those little moments where we told him, John, you're failing today. It's okay. It's okay. You're working towards a new goal. You may not have crushed this workout. You may not have done what you felt you should have been capable of. But guess what? We took another step forward. You lost another pound and you slowly began to move that needle. And it was all in the perception of those tiny moments. And slowly over time, I see John coming in day after day, again and again. And all of a sudden, it's like, wow, he's smiling more. He's talking more. He's expressing who he is. He's bringing the light that exists within him to the outside world. And as he does that, he's seeing positive change. And that was honestly one of my most impactful experiences as a personal trainer, was being able to see how the power of my perceptions and the power of my own positivity could help someone, who was willing to be helped. All right. John played a major, major role. He was the key factor here. John was willing to be helped here in this situation. And it was amazing for me to see that I could personally bring out the best in someone else. So when John started to lose this weight, he started opening up. He told me all about how, he loved theater, how he wanted to be an actor. It was just amazing to watch this person blossom. Now, how this plays into the lesson here is, what if I had been overly focused on my own goals in that moment? What if I hadn't understood that there's a person in front of me right now who has potential, who has this light, this beauty that exists within, but no one's told them that. No one's told them that, guess what, man? You're fucking awesome. You're beautiful. You got so much potential. You got a great personality. You've got charisma. You're a person. You have value. You have value to bring to the table. Then the world would have gone on without seeing, or it might have gone on without seeing John as the person he is. And that's a butterfly effect. It has a ripple effect. I read recently, or I heard recently from a philosopher and a clinical evolutionary psychologist that I listen to almost religiously. His name is Jordan Peterson. And he said that people have a much larger impact than they give themselves credit for. Um, and how this relates to people is, essentially, if let's say 3 people, or if you talk to 3 people on a daily basis, and they talk to 3 people, and they talk to 3 people, after 14 times, after that series of talking to 3 people has occurred 14 different times, you've reached the whole world. Your impact has reached out to the entire world. That's how people get famous. That's how people become recognized. That's how we have celebrities, because guess what? They influence people enough in a positive enough manner that they have provided impact into those lives, and it's dispersed out into other lives. And that's how culture is dictated. So you are a part of the culture. And I think overall, if you're listening to this, you should take this as a message to understand you have a personal responsibility to yourself and to the moment to bring about yourself and your positivity, in order to impact the culture around you. So I think you're a lot more powerful than, or we all are a lot more powerful than we initially give ourselves credit to. So we are simultaneously no more significant than a grain of sand. You can kill your ego with that, but you are also the center of the universe. And I think that that's a great way to end the podcast. I just want to give you guys a reminder. Follow us on Instagram, Abs Fitness Brandon Florida. Follow us on Facebook, Abs Fitness Brandon Florida LLC. check out the YouTube channel, Abs Fitness Film House, and keep coming back to this podcast. Sometimes it might be me, sometimes it might be Abby or just Justin, or it'll be all of us. We have special guests. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell as well. Don't forget that. All right, and that's it for today's podcast. I hope you found some helpful advice in here today, and peace.